Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you. This is so fun. We can actually see some of our attendees now. I know most of our sessions have been webinars and not meetings. So this is very fun for me to be able to see some faces now. There's also no pressure to go on video. If you prefer to stay off video, that is absolutely fine as well. Okay, so I'm just going to give people a couple more moments to join. We've got a bunch of folks coming in. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. We may still have some morning folks on, yeah. Okay. All right, and I am going to also promote some friends here to co-host who are going to be helping us. Here's Jen. Jen just gave an amazing presentation on sleep. If you missed it, I definitely recommend going back to check the recording because there was a ton of great information in there. Okay. And I want to give folks one more minute to join. Okay. And we've just got to do a couple of tech things on our end here. So thank you for bearing with me one moment as I do that. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to ask Liz is on as well, and I'm going to ask Liz if you are able to help just admit folks in from the waiting room as well. Okay. Melissa, yes. Oh, thanks for great talk, Jen. Love the sleep score quiz. Was a great way to understand sleep better. I couldn't agree more. Okay. All right. So thank you everybody so much for joining. We are so thrilled to have you here. This is really a core program of the Chronic Boss Collective. So if we do have many members on our call, but if you are interested in possibly becoming a member, this is a great session to be at because we host a mastermind monthly, and I would say that it is our most popular session that we run. And the way that this typically works is that we will have a presentation at the beginning from myself, one of our leaders, or another member of the collective in their zone of genius or area of expertise. So we've had them on a lot of different topics. Erin did one on travel over the summer, and so tips for traveling with a chronic condition. Lauren has done one on LinkedIn in the past. I've done one on imposter syndrome. I'm actually going to do a short one today on starting a business because I know that we have a lot of folks in here. It would be on starting a business and a side hustle. And so that is how we start. Then we move into workshopping or masterminding a couple of questions that are from our members. So things that are on your mind, something that you're struggling with that sits at the intersection of career and your chronic condition. And we leverage the collective power of the mastermind to come up with solutions. And then for the final part of the mastermind, we go into breakout groups, and this is an opportunity for you to network, to get to know one another, and to make an ask. So it's called our boss round, and this is a way for you to make an ask. So anything from, hey, I just shared something on LinkedIn and I'd love for you to go elevate this post. Would you go like it? Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's connect. And it could be, I'm looking for an introduction to somebody that can help me find my next job. I'm looking for an introduction to a recruiter. So those are the types of asks that we talk about. Okay. So with that, I am going to get us started. So I am going to do one that was pretty popular that I did a number of months ago for our collective. For some of you on the call, you may have seen this before, some of our members, but it will be a good refresher, and it was a favorite. So this is tips on starting a business or a side hustle. And a lot of the tips within here, I think, are going to be relevant for many of you on this call. So can we see my screen? Yes? Great. Okay. Let's see what happens when I present, if it's going to, okay. Here we go. And I just want to, oh, thank you, Stephanie. Love the thumbs up. I'm just moving you guys so that it's not blocking me. All right. I often get asked questions because I have started Patient Authentic and the Chronic Boss Collective on tips for starting a business, where to begin. If any of you were on our call with the entrepreneurs panel this morning, Stephanie Carton, who's the founder of Entreprenistas, she's amazing. She was saying her biggest tip is to just get started. Just get started, because we can get stuck in analysis paralysis. But there's also, in addition to just getting started, I do think that there are some core fundamental pieces to starting a business that folks should think about when they're going to get going. So I'm going to run through these, and I'm going to try not to spend, as our members know, I can be quite chatty, so I don't want to go overtime. So I'm going to try to go through this quickly so that we can spend most of our time on all of you. Okay. So my first tip is to really get clear on your offering. Doing some competitor research. How do others frame up their offering? What makes you unique? How can you differentiate? What's your secret sauce? And a great way to do this is to do some informational interviews. So connecting with fellow consultants who work in your space, who are open to sharing their experience, connecting with friendlies who work at companies that you want to consult for and learn more about what their process is like for hiring. Oh, I should also add that this, a lot of this focuses on starting a consultancy, because we definitely have a lot of people in the collective who are interested in their business is on the consulting side. With that being said, I also think that there are people who are much like me, juggling two businesses or working in a couple of different places, and the consulting brings in their money, and they might have something else going on, which we can talk more about later. Okay. So then doing ideal client interviews. So connecting with your ideal client and getting to the heart of their goals and pain points. So this is also a great lead gen opportunity to actually try to connect with some people who would potentially be your clients or your customers, right? I did this as well when I was starting Chronic Boss Collective. I reached out to different women that I had met over the course of my career who I knew were living with a chronic condition and were ambitious, to better understand what their experience was like and what they would be looking for in something like the collective. And so these are a couple of questions that you might consider asking. What are your KPIs? What are your goals? What keeps you up at night is a great one. And then having this on hand to figure out and using the language that they use to develop out your marketing material. This one's really, really important, is to crunch the numbers. So we don't want to just flippantly leave a job or a steady career without understanding the numbers. We don't want the numbers to scare us, but we want to be grounded in reality of what it is going to cost to run a business. So calculating the following numbers. The bare minimum. What's the monthly income that you need to hit the bare minimum? This is going to feel more palatable for you as you're thinking about starting your own business, and use that as your guidepost and scale up to the other numbers when you're in a season of life that feels manageable, for you. So then I want you to calculate a number where you can live comfortably. Like, this is covering your basic needs plus some extras. You're going on a vacation, you're doing a little shopping spree, you're feeling comfortable. Then your third number is, okay, you've hit it out of the park, you're booking first class tickets for your vacation. So these are the three numbers that you want to calculate before or at kind of the start of your side hustle, your business, whatever it might be. And, especially for folks living with chronic conditions, having that bare minimum number can be a great goal, right? That can be a great goal of like, this is the bare minimum I need to survive, without sending my condition into a flare. And that's always something that we need to be mindful of, when we're obviously building our businesses. This, maybe more than all the others, is probably the piece of advice I give out to entrepreneurs, consultants, people who are running their business more often than not, especially women, is to charge for your value. So I often remembering that you bring value to the table. Amount of time spent is not always a reflection of the value. So something could theoretically take you not a lot of time to do, right? Like a strategy session might only take an hour, but the insights that come out of that strategy session could be worth thousands of dollars. So you want to charge accordingly. There are some businesses where there are some businesses that it makes sense to charge hourly. My meeting planner that I work with, I work with her on a retainer basis, but we've had conversations about this before, and she said, well, sometimes it's made more sense for me to charge hourly because I have clients that will keep asking for more and more and more and more, and so she wants to ensure she's being compensated for that time. But on the flip side, if you are somebody who is, again, you're in a strategy focused, comms focused, anything that just take time to think about what is the value you're delivering to your client, and don't focus so much on how much time it's taking you, because oftentimes I've found that people are getting shortchanged when they set up their business that way. I also recommend going off of a retainer model. So charging a monthly retainer, avoiding hourly, and setting 3 to 6 month contract minimums to give yourself some stability. Okay, planning for the unexpected. So as we know, when living with a chronic condition, there's a lot of unexpected things that can happen. You're often waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you don't know when you are going to have to drop everything to focus on taking care of yourself. So you want to do your best upfront to design a flexible schedule. Ask yourself, what is something that you can do or an offering that you can have that doesn't require you to be on 24/7? And if you are going to have an offering that is going to require some sort of maintenance at all times, you really need to make sure that you have staff or contractors to help support you and that you trust to step in. So that is one of my top tips, is to hire contractors. And contractors tend to be a lower commitment, lower cost way to, and lower responsibility, lower operational costs, versus a full-time employee that can help you get the work done. So having contractors that you trust on standby that can jump in when you're overwhelmed, when you're dealing with a health crisis, can be really effective. And I personally had all of the folks that I work with for both Patient Authentic and Chronic Boss are contractors. And I've had really great luck finding contractors through Upwork. So there are some amazing ones there. Flex Professionals, which is primarily based in Boston and DC, I believe. But they're a great recruiting company, and they mostly focus on women, which is we love. And also Boston Business Women is a group that I'm a part of. It's another professional networking group. They have a great place for you to connect with people to hire. I also recommend Boston Businesswomen. I recommend whatever area you live in, finding the women's groups in your area, and networking groups that you could tap into for this. Oh, and purchase insurance. So short and long-term disability insurance are so important to make sure that you have when you're starting your own business. And then I think this is my last slide. So leveraging tech. There are so many incredible systems out there to help you automate in your business. And so these are a couple that I've used. Avaza, I actually use Asana now, but Avaza was really great for me when I was starting out. It was an all-in-one project management tool. Great for a client-focused small business. I was using it to track my time, manage tasks, invoice clients. And again, I sort of outgrew it, so it made sense to switch to Asana. AppSumo, that's a marketplace. This is a really cool spot. AppSumo is a marketplace with affordable tools designed for entrepreneurs. So they have a tool for everything that you can think of, and it's often other startups who are just getting off the ground. So they have these amazing lifetime deals. Like I know I've gotten video editors on there, and I've been able to access other great tools for a low cost. So just subscribing to them. Canva, I think a lot of people know about this tool now. And actually I'm running these slides on Canva. I totally recommend using Canva for slides. It's great. It makes them look really pretty. Freebitsy or Calendly. So having a tool for automating meeting scheduling. I will say now I have an executive assistant. And again, this has changed for me over time. When I first started, I didn't have the funds to have an executive assistant, and it made sense for me to have a Freebitsy and a Calendly. And what's really great about that is you can set the times for when somebody's booking time with you. So you have full control over that. And then LegalZoom, again, for Patient Authentic, I use LegalZoom. For Chronic Boss, I used a lawyer. So this all has to do with the funds I had available at the time. And Chronic Boss did require some more legalities and member handbooks and other things that I needed to invest in. But I think LegalZoom really made setting up my first business a breeze. And I've used their services in the past for legal consults, registered agent services. And so for a low cost option for starting a business, this is a great place to go. Okay, and I think that's it. So this is, hold on, let me get out of this chair. So I'm happy to take some questions around this, and then I want to jump into masterminding some of your questions. Does anyone have any questions for me specifically on this presentation? And you can drop them in the chat, or you can take yourself off of mute and just say hi and ask a question.
Hey, it's Danielle. Sorry, I'm off camera.
Okay.
But yeah, so my ask later will be, if anyone's heard of any content marketing positions. But I was very recently, just thinking of like maybe looking into going out on my own, maybe in the new year. But the health insurance thing was like the biggest one. So like I don't know if you know anything about, because right now I have insurance to work, but I also, because I'm legally disabled, have like access to buying a second plan through Mass Health, which I do. So I don't know if you've ever heard of anyone having two plans as a entrepreneur.
That's a good question, and it's so interesting because health insurance, it feels like, comes up at almost every single one of our masterminds. And I see Lauren just popped on too. I will share some of my thoughts, then Lauren, I think, may have some guidance as well. We actually just had somebody who is attending, and I don't know if she's on. I've mentioned her twice today, Jasmine. I don't think I see her on, but she is a mentor with SCORE, which is, and I can drop the link in the chat in a moment. But they have resources for navigating health insurance as a small business. And so they may have some recommendations for you there in terms of figuring out what the two plans would look like. Lauren, I don't know if you have anything else to add, because I know we've talked about this at like, oh, you're here, but
yes, I'm here. Oh, so health insurance is like the never ending story. Also, sorry to anyone that saw me eating crackers when I was carrying my phone. Anyways, health insurance is the never-ending issue, especially if you live in a high-price state like Massachusetts. The good news is that you do have easy access to finding health insurance in a place that has a marketplace. The thing to know is that it does go by income. So when I was first starting my business, my dollar amount was really low. And you're always able to have, as far as I know, two insurance coverages. People do that all the time. You just have to, that's more of a situation where that's more you would talk to your doctor, less about being an entrepreneur or whatnot. So I think it would probably be fine. You would just want to make sure that when you are handing in your insurance card for your appointments, you're clarifying which one you're using. I would say that if you can have two and you have the one that the disability one, and as an entrepreneur get some sort of small dollar amount, I would highly recommend that. But not everybody has that. I know some folks use like private insurance, or Liz, I know you did something, you worked with like a group, right? There are different options. It's really just figuring out what works the best for you and your family. The disclosure though is this is probably the hardest part of owning, and for me at least, the health insurance is definitely, we just don't have a great answer in our country is the unfortunate part.
Yeah, I'm seeing, thank you, Lauren, and I'm seeing a ton of people jumping in, which this is fantastic. Vanessa mentioned that she found a health broker, which is great. Brokers are another great resource. And so thank you. Please feel free to continue dropping resources in the chat. I will say, and Benita was just asking me, can I link to some of the, we have had several conversations about this on the member side in on health insurance in Circle. So if you do join, or I know Danielle is already a member, but for other folks who are looking, if you reach out to us, we might be able to help dig through and find some resources for you, or better yet, you can join as a member. Okay, so any other questions on the presentation? And we're kind of already moving into the mastermind portion, which is great anyways. But I want to just open the door in case anyone wants to ask something.
Hi, Lily, you said in the presentation just quickly that 3 to 6 months for a contract for more of like the stability. Do you have any suggestions on how to kind of like push for that with a said company? So for example, like a pharmaceutical company, if you're consulting for them.
Yeah. So I pretty much just, it's not, it's almost it's a non-negotiable. It's that this is, when I put my packages in front of them, I say it's a 3 to 6 month minimum, or I do something that's project based. So it all depends on what you're working on. Are you able to share a little bit more, Katie, what type of work you're doing? And we might be able to give you some feedback.
Yeah, I can't share too much, but it is more of like panel-based discussions, kind of like looking at clinical trials, giving consulting feedback from a patient's perspective. I did just get offered like a project plan, kind of like a proposal potentially. So I was thinking that this was my option to work with them kind of on more of a contract basis, but I have been kind of picking their minds on how I could get in having like more of a stable income with it or more of a promised expectation.
Yeah, so I would say that okay, that's helpful. So it sounds like you're starting in like an advisory board capacity, and then perhaps you would be moving into doing something more project based.
Yes, yes.
So it is a little bit different when you're coming in as somebody who has also done, I first started in the space as a patient advocate that was giving feedback and insight. And typically they have really strict rules around what that looks like. And so you wouldn't enter into some sort of 3 to 6 month contract on that. But I think the project-based is a good sign. So that's another thing I encourage. I do a lot of project-based contracts too. Again, it's just like a guaranteed set of funds that you're getting. And I think continuing to have conversations with, if you have any friendlies within the organization who can help you navigate that. And Katie, are you the person who messaged and said you were trying to decide if you wanted to set up an LLC or not?
Yes, actually.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to remember all the messages that I've been exchanging, and I was like, I think you're the person. So this is great for everyone too. My answer for folks who are thinking about starting a business is you should definitely put an LLC in place, or if you're like doing individual consulting, right? Like that's just where you're starting, because technically you could just do that under your own name. But for protection, it's relatively low cost to set up an LLC. And I definitely think that it's important to put that into place to protect yourself. It also, Katie, specifically in your case, where it's a pharmaceutical company that's viewing you right now as a patient advocate, they have a lot of compliance rules when you are
Right.
like viewed as a patient advocate versus they're hiring you from a business perspective. And so I think if you were to put the LLC into place, it might shift their mindset about how they're working with you, and then you could perhaps command those types of contracts. Okay, and there's a ton of things coming in the chat, which is so great. Okay. Admit, thank you also. So I definitely recommend checking out in the chat too. Katie, does that make sense? Is that helpful?
That was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay,
That
okay.
answered all of my questions and helped my imposter syndrome too.
Great. Yeah. And that's the other thing when we think about, and I'm glad you brought up imposter syndrome because I think this is so relevant to, always to everyone, especially women. Unfortunately, right? And so I would say part of this too, when you're just getting your business started, is putting the pieces together, putting your brand together so that it's the way you're presenting yourself. So even if you're just getting a new contract, this is going to be your first contract, getting a basic website set up, saying these are the services that I offer, even putting that out there as opposed to like putting that out there, even if you haven't done the work yet, right? Even if you haven't even secured a client, having this is how I work, this is what we do, that can be really powerful in communicating your value and your credibility as a business owner. Okay, guys, this is all great. Everybody's posting a lot and I'm having a hard time keeping up. Okay,
keeping up, Lily.
Oh yeah, Lauren, do you want to chime in?
I was gonna say, I'm keeping up and I think we got it all. Like everyone's just kind of going back and forth and I may have been wrong about the insurance, so don't listen to me.
Okay, Lauren is also, by the way, our chief community officer. You see her face all the time in Chronic Boss, and she is training all of our new cohort leaders, which is very exciting because we're opening up cohorts. So Lauren is a person to know. She's amazing and she does a lot of amazing work in mental health advocacy. And if you're interested in getting to know her more, you can join us, you join her tomorrow for her Level Up on LinkedIn session, which is going to be fantastic. And then you can join her for our info session on the membership. So did anyone else either want to chime in on that topic, or do you have a question that you want to ask? And I know that a few of you messaged me in Circle, and I can always bring up the questions that you had, but I feel like this group is already pretty comfortable and chatty. So Amanda, I see you've raised your hand. Do you want to jump in? Oh my God, I just did a thumbs up. I don't even know how I did that. Okay. Everybody is probably just thinking, wow, this girl knows nothing about tech, basically every session. It's fine. Okay. Amanda, maybe you accidentally raised your hand. I'm not sure. Does anybody else want to jump in?
I have a question.
Sure, Latoya, go for it.
So I run a membership where I, assist chronically ill business owners with their business and their health. So I have a client and it's one of my first clients, but right now she's getting relatively overwhelmed with the growth of her business and like her visibility. And she signed my contract for 6 months and we're going into month 3. And now she kind of wants to pause only because for like I can see it's like the imposter syndrome. It's she's just getting overwhelmed with the information and she's kind of doubting herself. And me, I don't want to push her because I don't want her to think it's like a financial thing because it kind of is. But I also want to give her that proper support to like let her know that this is part of the game. Like this is what we do. So like, do you or anyone have any suggestions on how me as a coach can relay that in a way that doesn't come off like you can't leave because I need your money, you know? So, but I really do want to help her, and I think I can. I know I can get her over this hump, but I didn't really factor in people wanting to like pause the membership. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Yeah, does anyone want to chime in? I want to give part of this is the opportunity for everyone to give their feedbacks. Does anyone have any advice on this topic? It's a great question. Don't be shy. We have a lot of brilliant women on this call.
I can chime in.
Yeah, Sarah, go for it.
Yeah, I think you probably know this, Latoya, but a lot of this is about sort of like timing and when it's the right time. And it might be that she comes back later and is more ready to really commit to that retainer that you have. And I found that oftentimes people aren't ready when I really want them to be, but if I like cultivate a relationship with them, then it comes back around.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah, yeah. I gave her because, like, when she, um, when she brought me the, idea of pausing. Like, she doesn't want to leave, but I think it's kind of like what you just said, that she she um might think she's not. She wants to change direction, is basically in her business, and so she wants to pause until she figures out her direction, but she doesn't know how to figure out her direction. And I'm like, well, I'm a coach. It's like, we can talk this out together. But like you said, I think that's kind of like what I'm doing. I just want to like see if there's a different way or a better way to do it. Like I'm going to allow her to pause, but because wasn't in the contract, I'm like, I still kind of need like that payment. So like, I'm like, she agreed to do like half for next month's payment, and she wants to come back at some other time. But I
Yeah.
just don't want her to lose momentum.
Latoya, I think Justine has some advice. Justine, I saw you raise your hand and that you threw in the chat here, a reframe is so key. Do you want to jump in?
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I will say, Latoya, one thing that I'm curious about is your stickiness to what you signed her on with. It feels like you have this idea of like, these are the things that we planned on working on at this cadence for this amount of time. And you're noticing that she doesn't want to follow that plan anymore because other things have come up. And so if you were to just expand your mind beyond like what was agreed, because you're referencing like what the contract says and all of these details, like if you were to just expand your mind to think about what does she need? How can I support her? If we made shifts, what would that look like? How would you approach it differently?
Yeah. And you're right. Because that was a point for me. I'm like, am I being too rigid? So yeah, that's why
And Latoya, I just want to interject here for 1 second and say, the second you're asking yourself the question, you already know that that is in fact the answer. So when you say, am I being too rigid? What you're really believing is I'm being too rigid, right? But you're afraid to like say that to yourself. So just accepting that thought of, I think I'm being too rigid, and then flipping it into curiosity, using your coaching skills to say, I think I'm being too rigid. How can I be less rigid? And like flipping it into curiosity to be more solution oriented in your thinking is going to open you up to more possibilities and ways to support her, because you're clear and she's probably clear that she needs support. She doesn't know how to do the things that are going to get her to the next level, and she's feeling overwhelmed. And there's a stickiness to the process. So when you flip it like that, you're opening up a world of possibilities for both of you to thrive exactly as you need to.
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really does. And yeah, I definitely can, see that, and I appreciate that. That's why I'm thinking, just kind of at this point, I'm letting her, I'm still, letting her work through, the remaining months that she already paid for. But then at this point, I'm kind of following her lead.
Also keep in mind, Latoya, she's paying you because she doesn't know what to do next, right? She's trusting you to support her and to know. So the minute you start to follow her lead, she's going to be less in desire of the coaching, right? Because she's like, I need support. And you're like, hey, I'm here for you and what you need. So like part of it is this deep desire to advocate for your client and be like, I'm here. I want to support you. What can I do for you? But at the same time, trust yourself, Latoya. You're such a good coach. You know what she needs. You're clear on it. And just knowing and believing in yourself and your own abilities, like, okay, she needs help with this. She needs help with that. Like, I bet you could leave this call right now and write down 10 things that you could help her with over the next X amount of weeks. And if you just said those things to her and you led her and guided her, she would be like, oh my God, LaToya, I'm in. Like, I need all of those things. You're so right. Just like I'm coaching you now. And you're like, yes, Justine, I know I need to do these things, right? Like, I am in full belief of what you need. You are in full belief of what she needs. Like, this is the power of the work. Don't doubt yourself and your ability to deliver.
So
Yeah.
this is great. I love this back and forth, Justine and LaToya. This has been great. And Justine, amazing advice. See, this is why I love this, because other people are giving advice and have so much to say. Okay, we can do one more quick question, because I want to send us into breakout rooms in the next 4 to 5 minutes. So if somebody else has a question that they'd like to answer, and I'm loving also the chat is very robust. People are giving really great insights in the chat. So definitely check that out. Anyone else? Yes, somebody.
I wanted to interject just because Amanda's voice wasn't working before. So she did put her question in the chat and it is so good. And I want to make sure that it gets spoken. So is that okay?
Yes.
And I'm having a hard time I'm trying to respond to Amanda, but Justine's stuff was so good. I couldn't not listen. So,
exactly. So I want to make sure to get lost because it was so good. So Amanda,
it's a really good question. Amanda, does your thing work yet?
It's not working. So I'm just going to read word for word because I saw her talking and it still wasn't working. So I'm just going to read her question word for word. I have some issues with prioritizing what next steps should be. Is it working on the product or building the brand or networking, or am I supposed to do it all at once? Where should I spend my spoons first? I've had a lot of counsel and advice from those not fighting a chronic illness, and the consensus seems to be to do it all at once, which is overwhelming. And honestly, I really only can do one thing at a time. But while I'm doing that one thing, I have anxiety over the other things I'm not doing. And while I know I should stick to my own pace, I wonder if I'm too slow. And posting every day is just out of the question. I need help streamlining my workload. I have so much to say about this too, but Lauren, I'm gonna toss it to you just because you're like the mentally fit founder. So
no, I definitely want other people to respond. I just did not have. I was like, my brain was not like allowing me to form full sentences while the other conversation was going on because it was so good. And I think the one thing about the questions that Justine was addressing and what we're addressing is these are all very normal reactions and thoughts and feelings. And that's the biggest thing that I would want to say to any of you guys is like all these questions, all these concerns are so normal, and the fact that you even have them shows that you're doing all the right things. If you just breezed in here and felt like everything was easy breezy, lemon squeezy, you're probably in the wrong group. So that's the one disclosure here, is that it's okay to have these questions and concerns, especially if you have a chronic illness. So as far as doing all the things, yeah, Amanda, that's like, I've been in business for 5 years and I still have that. So it's not just you, and you're not, don't worry about being behind. You are not behind at all. The fact that you're even here again shows something, but I do think if I don't know what your product is, so that was part of my question, that you don't have a product yet. You need to have a product before you go market or brand it or anything like that, because then you'll be marketing something that you can't follow through on. So that was the first thing. Maybe you can comment and tell us a little bit about that, and I will toss it back over to Stephanie to give her thoughts.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as somebody who struggles with spoons as well, it is really challenging to make those decisions every day and say, okay, am I gonna shower or am I gonna do a networking meeting? And those are really what it comes down to some days. And some days I choose not to shower, and some days I choose not to do the networking meeting. And so deciding, for yourself. I mean, speaking to other entrepreneurs is fantastic, and speaking to other chronic entrepreneurs is amazing, but it really comes down to what you can do and what your capabilities are. And you're not behind because it's your company, and you're not, failing because it's your company, and you're not, no matter what you do, you're going at your own pace, and you're able to continue to go at your own pace. And if that is incredibly slow, I had 3 clients for like 2 years and that was it. Like and I made it work because that was all I could do. I could not do more than that. Now I'm up to 10 because I'm able to. But it took time, it took growth, and it took figuring out, whether I was going to shower or networking that day. So really it is just about what works for you. And it doesn't have to be, based off of what anybody else is doing.
Yeah, Stephanie and Lauren, such great points. And the last thing I'll add before we move into breakout groups is that I recently heard about this concept of micro goals, which I had never really thought about before. But I think they can be a great tool for folks. Is that sometimes because somebody else had messaged too, but when I was asking about mastermind challenges, what are you facing? And someone else was feeling really overwhelmed by like, they would put they'd go all out and do everything at once, and then they would end up sick, right? They would set themselves back, they would flare. And so how can we reframe goals and what we're trying to achieve as maybe micro goals? And micro meaning, do you have to have the whole, can you split the goal into smaller steps and like celebrate each time you're hitting those micro goals and focusing on that instead of focusing on trying to do every single thing. So I will leave you with that for now. Now here's what's going to happen. We're going to do breakouts. So this whole group will get into smaller groups. I think we'll probably have 4 or 5 groups because I have Sarah, I have Stephanie, I have Lauren, and I have myself, right? And Liz. Oh, and I have Liz. So we can do 5. So we will do 5 breakout groups. And what's going to happen is I think in the interest of time, each person will have 1 to 2 minutes. I'll let the group leader figure that out. But you'll have 1 to 2 minutes just to say hello, introduce yourself, talk about your career and your chronic condition. And then if you have an ask that you'd like to ask of the group, you're more than welcome to do that. And what we'll do at the end too is in Circle on the Let's Chat platform, I'm going to put a post that says drop your asks, and that's going to be an opportunity for you to drop your asks and share them with the larger group. So you will be guided by seasoned Chronic Boss members who are with us, and you do not need to come on video if you don't want to. We're really big on, we know people don't always feel like doing that or feel up to doing that. You can totally stay off video and you can just be, chime in and talk or drop your info in the chat. So bear with me one moment, and Stephanie, Sarah, Lauren, and Liz, it may take me a minute to get you into your right room. So just everybody bear with us for just a moment on that. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. We will see you guys back. We'll come back for the last couple of minutes.
I was
Hey.
in Lauren's room,
You were in Lauren's room. Okay, let me thank you for coming back.
of course.
I'm going to send you to room 2.
Okay.
Oh, wait, how do I do that?
I can just go.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
only our room expire?
Everyone probably got cut off, and I don't know if everyone made it around to your groups.
Sorry, group.
A tough one. It was a tough one. There were a lot of people. It's very exciting. But we thank you all so much for joining us. This has been amazing. It's been great to see so many new faces. For those of us who have been doing the mastermind with the membership, we've got a great crew going, and it was so wonderful to add new people into the group. I would like to invite Sarah or Stephanie. Do you guys have any thoughts that you wanted to share just on your experience participating in masterminds and being a member of the collective before we close for the day? And I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot, so sorry.
I don't mind at all. I kind of anticipated it. You told me the other day I was going to be put on the spot. I have to say that just in just speaking with my group and hearing all of the needs and hearing all of the what they're looking for, which is just a community and looking to find a place where other people understand you and other people, get it. That is really where I found my place here, in finding other entrepreneurs who, if we have to cancel a meeting last minute because, it's a bad pain day, or if we just want to connect because, hey, I really need someone to help me with this project, or I have this question, you mind just hopping on a call really quick? And having those connections within the collective has been absolutely incredible. And just finding people across the country that I never would have known about in the past. It's really helps my business and helped me personally. So I can't speak highly enough about it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And Sarah?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to find people that are role models sort of when you start becoming an entrepreneur, and especially as like a chronic boss entrepreneur that deals with all the things that Stephanie was talking about. I'm always surprised by how like comforting it is to kind of have other people as examples and sort of have a sense of what's realistic, or like for me, like, will I be at my part-time job for how long? Like for some people, it takes longer than others. Just having some sense of like the realities of what entrepreneurship is, because it isn't an overnight, suddenly success. It's really trying to redefine success and understanding where you are in the process and feeling successful in a group of like-minded people.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you all for being members. I also love that everybody's dropping their LinkedIns in the chat. That's perfect. Please do connect with one another. And as I mentioned, I will do a post in Circle on the Let's Chat section where you can drop your mastermind asks so that your asks can spread out a bit further to the full group. Also, feel free to introduce yourself there too in the chat, introduce yourself and do your ask. But thank you all so much for joining our second day. And this was our final session of the second day. We hope you'll join us tomorrow. We will be doing a giveaway. It's $100 off of membership for one person. So we will be following up with folks this afternoon or this evening. Because you attended this, you have been automatically entered in to win. So again, we will be in touch, and we encourage you to join us if it feels like a fit. If it doesn't feel like a fit at this time, that's okay too. Definitely feel free to just stay in touch and engage with us on our social media and via the Chronic Boss Hub. But thank you all so much for participating today and for showing up and for engaging. It's not always easy to do that and to take a step away from your day and to actually be fully present. And I really feel like this group was, and I'm super grateful for that. Thank you all for your awesome insights, and we will see you tomorrow and on Circle. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.